Hi, I'm Jess.
Hi, I'm Kristen.
And this is ReDIScover, a conversation where we travel through everything that makes up the essence of who we are and how to live authentically and imaginatively.
Here, we invite you to join us as we explore and discuss a little bit of, well, everything.
From Disney to cultivating your most authentic life to deepening your relationships and talking about the real stuff.
We hope you'll find this a space that speaks to you, encourages you, and brings a little bit of magic into your day.
Hi there, I'm Jess.
Hi everyone, I'm Kristen.
And welcome back to this week's episode of ReDIScover. This week is really exciting because we are reconnecting with one of our old DISboards pals, Joni.
Joni has been a part of our lives for the past decade. We first met her as a part of our Disney community over on the DISboards, and that was really the first place where Jess and I felt a sense of belonging with our passion for Disney, and we met so many like-minded people with these beautiful bright souls, and Joni was one of them.
We all wrote trip reports and bonded over our passion, and here we are 10 years later, staying in touch with a wonderful friend that we met back then. Joni, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here, and you guys have already got me wanting to start bawling my eyes out because you're so sweet. This has been an amazing friendship for me over the last decade, so I'm so excited to join you and talk to you today and spend some time with you.
We're so glad you're here. So yes, if you were a DISboards reader back in the day, we're all a little family, and we're so excited you're here.
Yay, thank you.
Joni, we know in getting to know you that there's so much more to this community than just our love for Disney. So why don't we start with a little introduction so everyone who doesn't know you can get to know you. Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and we've already kind of established how you connected with us, but I guess when did you find us on the DISboards?
Okay, sure. So my name, like you guys said, is Joni. I live in North Carolina. I've lived here my whole life. I'm trying really hard to kind of tone down my accent, but if it comes out, forgive me. I am a high school English teacher. Well, I was for 10 years, and I've just recently left that position to be a stay-at-home mommy to my almost 4-year-old son. So that's kind of where I am right now. And yes, the DISboards. Oh gosh, what a time to be alive. My first Disney trip as an adult was 2007. And I was obsessed, and I needed something in my life to keep me with Disney when I couldn't be there. And I found the DISboards, and I found the trip report boards, because I think I initially stumbled upon the DISboards for just advice because I was such a newbie with Disney and I didn't know anything. And I was looking for, the best restaurants and all of those things. But I found the trip report board, and I started writing my own trip reports as well as reading trip reports. And that led me to you ladies and your trip reports, and of course the famous Bathrobe Princesses, which gave me life. And if I told you how many times I watched those videos, you would probably block me, but they were so good, and your reports were so exciting. And I had my little group of people whose reports I always read and who read mine, and you guys, we were always really close on there. And I was trying to remember some of my trip report titles the other day. I remember my one about being stuck on Splash Mountain, but that's the only one I could remember. And then remember the one I did that was like, I tried to make it like a soundtrack, and like every post had a song. Oh my gosh. I was so extra, but I loved doing that so much. So yes, that was how I initially met you guys. And then when the DISboards kind of, it kind of faded out, you transitioned your presence more heavily to social media. And that's where I really kept up with you and followed along with your super exciting journeys. I've had the pleasure of meeting both of you in person, which has been such a gift. And it's just been a beautiful friendship that I've treasured and that I feel like has stayed strong even in spite of the miles.
My heart is bursting right now.
We're over here like trying not to cry. We love your accent. Let it fly.
Thanks, y'all.
You're welcome. That leads right into our next question. So what were your favorite aspects of being active on the DISboards, whether it was connecting with people, writing reports, any memories you made?
My favorite aspects were definitely the combination of reading other people's reports and then writing my own, because I'd never been much of a content creator. Because, when I was in high school and in college, social media really wasn't a thing yet. This was kind of my first experience with posting things online and sharing my personal experiences. So that was really fun. And the amount of feedback you would get was always really gratifying because people just loved reading about other people's trips. And I was no different. I loved reading about everyone else and their trips and their adventures, and it would help me kind of get through those times when I wasn't at Disney, because that's kind of how I live my life, like at Disney or thinking about being at Disney.
Oh yeah.
And I lived pretty far away, but I didn't have any kids then, and I had a lot of free time, so we would go to Disney maybe 2 or 3 times a year, which for me was, that's pretty good. But in those in between times, I really needed something to get me through, and so the trip reports did that for me. And I remember just the excitement of, logging in and seeing that you guys had made a new post or that there was a new report to follow. And it really helped with those times when I couldn't be at Disney myself. And it also helped me so much with expanding my knowledge of Disney. Because like I said, when I first started going to Disney, I knew nothing. I used my snack credits on bottles of water. That's how much of a newbie I was. And I learned so much about food and the best places to go and the best unknown experiences. I think it was you guys that turned me on to the drawing class.
Oh yeah, Animation Academy.
Yes, I never knew. When I would first go to Disney, we just did all the big rides and all the main things, but I missed out on so much of those little nuances that make it so magical. So learning from kind of Disney pros like you guys really helped me to expand my Disney experience. And it kind of changed my Disney experience. I got to the point where I couldn't go to Disney without going to Muppet Vision 3D. I couldn't go to Disney without getting a school bread, because of you guys sharing your love for those things. That kind of morphed my love for Disney as well.
Wow.
I love it.
School bread a day keeps the sadness away. Oh my gosh, that was so pure.
Best times, seriously. I feel like life was so simple and it was just excitement and I loved it.
I think what you said about life being just kind of like being at Disney or thinking about your next trip to Disney, we definitely lived in that space. I mean,
it was that whole era, I feel like. Whenever we were writing the reports, we all kind of were in that.
Yeah. It was like a
cycle.
Support group for each other. Disney addicts, not so anonymous, but we chose to engage in that community because we were like, how cool is this? That basically all over the world are people who are just as crazy as we are.
Yeah. If you get it, you get it. It's like an addiction, and you have to have other people to share that, because it's not just like, oh, I like Disney, it's cool. No one feels that way. It's like once you're in, you're in. And it also gave you that aspect of the journaling on your trips, because you would write down every aspect so you could come home and write your trip report. Yeah. And I found some of my old trip journals recently, and it's really cool. I miss the DISboards for sure.
Yeah.
Same.
With all of this passion for Disney, everyone's got that thing that hooks you. So what was it that made you fall in love with Disney in the first place?
Well, when I was growing up, I always loved the Disney movies, of course. That aspect was always a part of my life. I have an older sister, and so we were all about princesses, and Aladdin was my thing. But the Disney parks were never a big part of my childhood, because we went when I was 6 months old. And of course, I don't remember any of it. And then we never went again. So when I was 20 in 2007, so I'm showing you my age a little bit, my now husband came home from a deployment because he's in the military, and we were trying to think of somewhere to go on vacation. He'd had a really rough time and things were just tough for us. And normally we would go to the beach or we would go to the mountains or something. And my mom actually suggested, she was like, why don't you guys go to Disney World? And I remember when she said it, you guys are going to think I'm crazy, but I was like, no, because I used to really, really hate theme parks. We have a theme park in North Carolina that I could not stand. To me, it was just like an asphalt jungle, and you waited in line for hours for a ride that gave you a headache, and everything was super expensive, and it just wasn't fun for me. So when she said Disney, I was like, no, I don't want to go to a theme park, But I thought about it. I was like, well, let's give it a try. So we went, and you guys, oh my gosh, biggest moment of my life. I had no idea what I was walking into, because we stayed at Caribbean Beach. That was our first resort. And just walking into the lobby of Caribbean Beach, or the area where they have the food court, I was like, what is this place? This is insane. I'm used to like your typical hotel or motel, and this place looked like something from a dream. And I remember our first theme park we went to, at the time it was MGM. We went to Hollywood Studios and we rode Tower of Terror. That was our first ride. And I got on that ride. It was in May, so there wasn't really long lines at all. And that ride blew me away. And in that moment, I was like, this is not a typical theme park. This place is crazy. So I fell in love like that. I had the best trip ever. I had no idea what I was doing. Like I said, we probably wasted so much time and money on that trip because we were just so new to it. But it was literally like I caught a bug. I could not stop thinking about Disney after that moment. And since then, every trip, I want to go to Disney. I think about Disney. I love Disney. I've taken my family to Disney. So that experience really did change my life.
That just like reignited the passion within me. So thank you for sharing.
You needed that. Thank you.
That was so wholesome.
The first adult trip where it's like, oh, I am the arbiter of these activities and like I'm the person in charge of making the decisions. It's like, oh, there's so much more to learn here. And Disney really is, it's like the anti-theme park, I feel like.
Yeah.
Everyone who doesn't get it is like, oh, it's hot, it's crowded, you wait in lines, and it's cheeseburgers and french fries. And I'm like, no, it is
not.
It is fancy upscale dining and cultural
immersion. And people are always like, it's just for kids. And well, it is great for kids. Like, I feel like adults almost benefit from going there more.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, for sure. Having been to Disney many times as an adult, but, you know, just with my husband, and then having been a few times now with my son, I can tell you, I agree 100%. It is just as much for adults as it is for children.
So our next question for you is, how do you keep the magic of Disney alive when you live in a different part of the country?
2 words, Jess and Kristen. But truly, that's it. Like, I still have these amazing connections with people like you guys who are, you know, more involved with Disney than I'm able to be. And through your social media posts and your, oh my gosh, when you made Frumpiness Begins,
Oh,
honestly, like, I can't tell you, like, you guys have this amazing ability to make things right when I need them the most. And it was just things like that are what keep me going, because I haven't actually been to Disney World in almost 2 years now because life, you know. And I have, you know, a few friends who were cast members, and I have some former students who are cast members that you guys actually know, because they're cast members because of you guys. Shout out to Carl if he's listening.
I love Carl.
But that's helped me stay connected. And then, you know, Disney Plus has been a blessing in my life. You know, I try to infuse a little bit of that magic into my day-to-day life. I'm at that point in my life now where I can't live for Disney trips anymore. Like, I can't live for the next trip. So I have to find a way to keep that joy going. So that's really been the way I've done that, I think.
Shout out to Disney Plus.
Talk about something that came along right when we needed it. A lot of what motivated the decision for the Frumpiness Begins tour.
For some reason, because I was editing it and I was just pushing it off. It's a big project. Like, I couldn't get in the zone. And then right before we all quarantined, I whipped it out in like record time. And then all of a sudden, we all quarantined and we were like, wait, this is why that happened.
This is perfect.
It was just meant to be that way. And
everything else was just anxiety and worry and fear. And we were like, let's just give them something different.
Yes, I'm telling you, like I said, it's kismet. You guys just have this amazing ability to know when the world needs you most. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
You are the most affirming person. Truly. It is like, we've said this a million times, but it's literally like you're our Disney big sister.
Yes, that's my role I've given myself. I'm your self-proclaimed big sister.
We love it.
I love that. I never had an actual big sister, but always wanted one. So when Jess and I became friends, I was like, great, now I have one. Now I have two. Well, we love your relationship with your husband. We think it's so sweet. And I would love it if you could just give us a little background on your relationship, how you guys met, how long you've been together.
Yeah, absolutely. My husband's name is John. He and I actually met in high school, which I know is just sickeningly sweet, but we did. He was a year ahead of me. And so I was a freshman and he was a sophomore, and I had the biggest crush on him. He had this long, if you guys know what John looks like now, he's in the military, so he's got like the short hair and everything, but he had this long shoulder length curly hair that, oh my gosh, I was just over the moon for this guy. So I stalked him basically. I'm not afraid to admit it now. And I had such a crush on him for a few months. And then finally I got up the guts to kind of try to talk to him. Okay, here's my age. Really, get ready. We first talked to, now we went to the same school, but the first time we ever spoke was on AIM.
I love AIM.
AIM, yep. So if any of you listeners don't know what AIM is, you're young, because AIM was AOL Instant Messenger. It was the original way to connect with your friends online, and you would go on there and you would be very particular about your away message and like what song you were listening to and your font, and oh my gosh. So that's how we first met, and he reached out. He must have heard through the grapevine that I liked him, and he reached out and we started dating. And so that was 18 years ago.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah, right. We started dating on April 11th, 2002. So
wow.
yeah. So well, I remember the date because it was the day after my 15th birthday, and I was a little bit like, you couldn't have asked me out before my birthday. But anyway, so we dated, and we had our ups and downs and our ons and offs, but we dated basically throughout the rest of high school and then college for me, and joining the military for him. And then we were married in 2008, and we've been married for 12 years, and we had our son in 2016. So that's kind of a brief history of the Russells.
See, that's real life magic right there.
I would love it if you could just give any relationship advice you have for a long distance relationship, and like what are the biggest lessons you've learned being a military wife?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I really struggled initially with the whole long distance relationship thing, because when John first joined the Army, I went to college in my home state, and John actually, his first location where he was stationed was Anchorage, Alaska.
Wow.
Yeah, so we basically couldn't have gotten any further apart. And I was 18, and I was not prepared for that level of difficulty in a relationship. And so I really struggled with it at first, because I feel like I was so consumed with our relationship that I kind of missed out on living my life for myself. There were a lot of things that I didn't do in college because I was just, all I wanted to do was go home and sit in my dorm and miss my boyfriend. I don't want to digress too much, but like, I remember seeing opportunities for the Disney college program and thinking like, oh wow, I would love to do that. But I don't want to be away from home if John comes home, So I never did it. And in retrospect, I really regret those decisions, because one thing that you have to focus on when you are in a long distance relationship is yourself and your independence. We were apart because of John's career choice. And so I kind of took that all on myself, making all these sacrifices for our relationship, which is important, but I had to learn how to live my life for me. And I feel like I got a lot better at that in my 20s after we had been used to it for a while. And after he went through a few deployments, I learned to focus on myself more. And it really does force you to gain this sense of independence that I feel like you might not typically have in a traditional relationship, which is actually kind of a blessing. Like, I love being with my husband. I love being around him, but I love my own company as well. And I can do things by myself and be on my own and be okay now, which I think is so important. It's a cliche, but it's so true. One thing I've learned is that, absence really does make the heart grow fonder. You hear that a million times, but it's so true. And I think the way that happens is you appreciate the time you have with your significant other so much more. So the little insignificant petty things that as humans we would fight over kind of become irrelevant, and the moments together are so much more valuable.
I mean, the best investment I think of my time in any relationship is my relationship with myself, because if I don't have a good relationship with myself, how can I expect to cultivate good relationships with other people?
Like you said, in a long distance relationship, it's tough to learn that balance. But once you do, see, now you've been married for so long and you're able to still have all of those traits and qualities that you developed during that whole process.
Yeah, thank you. I think you guys are right. And as a military wife, I think and Kristen, you coming from a military family, I'm sure you know this as well. You learn to be so flexible because you learn that plans are made to change. You can't really ever guarantee time or anything. So that's helped me a lot, especially with this year and this pandemic. It's really given me that strength I need to just kind of sit back and be like, okay, it's life is going to happen and I'm just going to roll with it. That's what being in a military family is. You have to know going into it that the needs of the military are going to trump your needs as a couple sometimes. And that is just because of the nature of the job. And you just have to learn to accept that. And I think that can be liberating to a degree because, like I said, it helps me to learn to depend on myself a lot more and to value myself a lot more.
Yeah, you have to be adaptive and just take things in stride, which isn't always easy. But yeah, I think it is liberating because you're just like, this is going to happen. It's outside of my control, and we're just going to go with it.
That really trained you for 2020, that's
Yeah.
for sure. Leading into our next question, what has been your biggest lesson you've learned so far being a mom?
Oh my goodness, being a mom. Whew, let me tell you, I don't even know where to begin. So I guess this will be a great episode for your like 30 something listeners who are out there feeling like they're drowning, because that was definitely me. So I had Gus when I was 29, and we had been trying for a while to have a baby. And, I think it's so important to kind of destigmatize that process of, sometimes it can be really hard to have a baby. And that was kind of the situation we were in. And so I wanted to be a mom more than I wanted anything at that point in my life. And finally, after a lot of difficult experiences, he came along, and he was everything I dreamed of. But what I learned really quickly being a mom, and specifically, one thing I didn't mention, but you guys know this, is that Gus has autism. So being a special needs mom, I learned really fast that things don't always go as planned, and that is okay. And that is the beauty of life. It kind of goes back to what I was saying about the military. It's about being flexible and being, you create these little humans and you have hopes and dreams for what you want them to turn out like, and then they are their own people. And your hopes and dreams don't matter anymore because they're going to live their own lives, and you just have to nurture them and support them. And the level of unconditional love that I experienced when I had him was like nothing I'd ever experienced before. It is an instinctual connection that is so powerful and can be really frightening, because it is so intense, but it's magical. Learning that I could love on another level that I didn't even know existed, and learning that you'll do anything for your kids. I'm telling you, anything. I went through this interesting course of my life where like I said, I was so focused on my relationship with John, and then I focused on myself, and I was like, this is me, this is my time. And then I had a baby, and suddenly it's all about him. And that's a really crazy roller coaster to be on. But yeah, I think that it was pretty powerful, learning that things not going as planned is okay. That's kind of my biggest lesson as a mom.
When you were telling that story, I started thinking about when you were talking about adjusting to the distance from John at the beginning. And I thought, wow, that's so cool that you were put in that position. And obviously you love John, and, it was worth it for you to make that distance work. And it was like God was literally equipping you, like, hey, I'm going to let you figure this out now. We're going to learn how to be flexible and adaptive and grow that bond between you. So now when Gus comes along and there are some, added challenging elements to the already challenging aspect of parenthood, you've got this because I've already equipped you for this. Like, you already know how to do this. So that's so beautiful, Joni. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
We were literally
I remember when you got pregnant with Gus.
2016 was the best year of my life. Finding out that Gus had autism was obviously difficult, because you do have this idea in your mind of how things are going to go, and that kind of upends it. But it has been such a blessing to our family. And I don't pretend to be like, I'm not a sole representative of the special needs experience. So I don't want to speak for all special needs families. But there was this amazing article I read. It was called Welcome to Holland, and it was written by this lady named Emily Pearl Kingsley. If you have a child with special needs or you have a family member with special needs, I love this article and I recommend looking it up. It kind of uses this metaphor for you're going on a vacation and you're going to Italy, and all this time you've been reading about going to Italy and you're so excited about all the things that you're going to do in Italy and you have all your plans laid out, and then your plane lands and you get off your plane and you're in Holland. And you're like, wait, what happened? Why am I in Holland? And you're really upset about the fact that, you're not in Italy and all your plans have kind of gone out the window. But then you start to look around, and Holland has all these beautiful things. It has windmills and it has flowers and it has Rembrandts, and it's just gorgeous. And the poem ends, and I'm paraphrasing, it says, you still have moments where you miss what could have been had you gone to Italy. But if you spend your whole life mourning the fact that you didn't go to Italy, then you might never be free to enjoy the beautiful, special things about Holland. And I feel like that metaphor could be for all parents, not just special needs parents. Just that idea of you have to let go of what you thought it was going to look like, and you have to embrace what it is and the beauty of that, which I've really learned to do, I think, as Gus has gotten bigger. And I just feel so blessed to be his mom.
Aw.
That's so beautiful.
I love that they're, too, as you said, like destigmatizing motherhood and pregnancy and childbirth and all those things, but also, so many more moms and parents are speaking to these things, and now there's so many more resources, and it really is like a whole community in and of itself, and you don't have to feel alone in it. Like you said, you're not the sole arbiter of that community. Like, there are so many people to look to, and that helps so much. Solidarity is really underrated.
Yes, and moms need so much more support than they sometimes get. And, destigmatizing the idea of what you go through after you have a baby and postpartum depression and all of these things that used to be such taboo topics. They made women feel like less of a mother because they experience these totally natural things. I think it's so great that the world has kind of opened up to moms and given them this source for connection, to find other people like them and to, hear other stories. So I think it's really, really powerful.
A common thread, community, community with our Disney family, community amongst moms and special needs parents and all these things. Like, that's what gets you through. So I know from having the privilege to meet Gus at Disney that you are exposing him to Disney and Disney movies and Disney characters and the parks. So I would love it if you would just talk a little bit about how that introduction has been, since you are a longtime Disney fan.
Yes, fresh out of the womb, I was like, here we go. Here's Mickey Mouse. You're going to love him. And that's how it's been from day one. Like, I've exposed him in every way I can to Disney. And it's funny because Gus's first Disney trip was in October of 2017. So he was like 11 months old. He didn't care. He didn't care about any of it. But I got all the pictures, and I got his little ears with his name on them, and I did all the things. And it was just so special to share that with him. Going to Disney parks as an adult, I think a lot of people think about like, oh, when I have my kids, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. It's so much fun. It's so fun to take your children there and to see it through their eyes. And now I will say, Gus has been to Disney twice, and his first experience was right before he turned 1, and his second experience was right after his second birthday. And it's hilarious. If you go back through my Instagram and look at the pictures from that trip, Gus looks so unimpressed with literally everything we did. Like, I was just overjoyed at every experience, and Gus is just like, okay, big deal. Because he was 2, I can't wait for all of this pandemic stuff to pass for so many reasons, but also I feel like he's at the perfect age now to go back to Disney and to really appreciate it. He loves the characters. He recognizes them, and seeing them, in person now would be such a new, exciting experience for him because he would understand who they are. He's such a sensory seeker, so he's going to love the rides, and I can't wait. As soon as everything is safe again, we'll be going, because Gus can't wear a mask, so we have to wait until, that's an option for us, but we will be there, and I think he's going to love it. Right now, his thing is Disney Plus. Once again, bless it. He watches Disney Plus all day long, and it's so funny to see his own little preferences emerge, because I have my favorites and I try to push them on him, but he has formed his own opinions. He really loves Chicken Little, and what's the Wreck-It Ralph sequel? Ralph Wrecks the Internet.
Ralph Breaks the Internet.
Ralph Breaks the Internet. Yeah, thank you. I love Wreck-It Ralph, but I've seen that one a few too many times now. And Mickey's Once Upon a Christmas is his jam.
Okay, I love that one too.
But Gus will watch those over and over again, and he's at that perfect preschool age now too, where he is all about some Disney Junior. So our whole house is PJ Masks and Doc McStuffins and Vampirina and all of those things. I love that he's kind of finding his own way to Disney, which I fully support. So he's a Disney lover at heart. I fully plan on him growing up at Disney parks and fully immersed in Disney. So it's really exciting.
I love this.
I'm like excited for you.
Oh my god.
We are Gus's biggest fans.
He's so cute.
Thank you.
All right. So, our last full question of the episode. In the spirit of Thanksgiving quickly approaching, what are your favorite ways to cultivate gratitude within yourself and then setting an example of that for your son?
That's such a great question. I think that you guys talked about this a lot in your episode you did a few weeks ago about the pandemic. It's so difficult sometimes to be grateful for what you have because it's really easy to get caught up in, what you're missing out on. But I think that my life experiences have really helped me to be grateful for the little things and to be present and to see what I have in front of me that are such blessings. One way that really helps me with that is I am obsessed with devotionals. I love a daily devotional. And that's kind of like my self-care routine when I end my day when Gus is finally asleep. I sit down and I pray and I read my devotional. I love the devotionals that come with like journaling opportunities. So I kind of do 2-in-1, writing down things that happened today that were good and things that I'm grateful for every day really makes a difference in my life and kind of keeps me grounded when things seem to be getting difficult. And for Gus, one fun thing that we've been able to do for him that's been really cool, Gus's birthday is November 30th, so it's really close to Christmas. And Gus is also, on my parents' side, an only grandchild. And on John's parents' side, he's one of 2. So he's spoiled rotten. And he has every toy that's ever existed. So one thing that we started doing right away with Gus's first birthday is we have a birthday party for Gus every year, but instead of gifts, we request donations for local establishments. We have his first birthday, we did donations to the local animal shelter, and everyone brought in, dog food and cat food and things like that. And we took Gus over and he helped us donate it. And then we did a cash fundraiser for an animal shelter, and then we did a fundraiser for a local coffee shop that employs people with intellectual disabilities. That's a nonprofit. So that was really cool. So I plan on that being something that Gus does every year as he gets older. For some people, they might be like, that's mean. You're making your kid give to other people on his birthday. But we still celebrate him and we do special things for him. But I want him to learn, how much he has and how blessed he is, and that being grateful for those things and giving back to others is just as much of a gift as, receiving a gift yourself. So that's kind of what I'm trying to instill in him.
That's such a beautiful idea.
I love that. Please don't be mad if we steal this when we have kids.
No, absolutely. It wasn't my original idea, so I definitely can't take credit for it. I've seen people who do that because when I found out Gus was going to be born close to Christmas, I was like, what am I going to do? Because I don't need all that stuff in my house and he doesn't need all that stuff. So it seemed like a perfect idea. And he still gets to have a special day because he gets to have a party and people come to see him and, people still bring gifts because grandparents, but just teaching him the joy of giving back. I hope that that's something he grows up, loving and wanting to do.
Yeah. The way you're helping Gus cultivate gratitude and the way you're doing it within yourself are kind of one and the same in that you're establishing this fullness and wholeness within yourself and your family through thoughts and giving and love and caring and those things that fill you up more than stuff ever could. And I think that's kind of how we're moving, especially in 2020 when we can't, go and do as many things or go and get as many things as we're used to. Finding smaller ways to be joyful, focusing on those things that make you truly feel happy and full. That's amazing. All right. Well, we really wanted to do a Disney favorites rapid fire. So for anyone that used to read our trip reports on the DISboards, we would start every trip report with an introduction to ourselves and kind of give you some of our Disney favorites so we could all kind of connect in that way. So we wanted to throw some Disney rapid fires at you.
Oh, I'm ready. Oh, this is bringing back all the feels. Okay, yes, let's go.
All right. So, first one, what's your favorite Disney park?
My favorite park changes, but my current favorite park is Animal Kingdom. That was always kind of at the bottom of my list, but the last time I was there, just the atmosphere that they are creating as they continue to evolve that park blows me away, and I just love it.
I love that. Okay, favorite resort.
Okay, so Caribbean Beach has a special place in my heart because it was the first place I ever stayed. But I think my favorite resort has to be Beach Club. The location, the food, the smell, it's just perfection. And there's so much to do there. I could just stay there forever.
And I just want to take note that Joni appreciates the Disney smells, as do we.
Yes.
So, all right. Next, favorite restaurant.
Oh, okay, that one is probably gonna have to be, overall, thinking of food and experience, I guess I'm gonna have to go with Ohana.
Ooh.
Excellent choice.
You know, I want to say something a little less popular. Like I wanted to, give a shout out to something that's a little underappreciated, but I just love that bread pudding so much. I have so many good memories eating there, and that food is just so good. So that's got to be my favorite.
Hey, it's popular for a reason.
Right, exactly.
Okay, favorite Disney character.
My favorite Disney character has got to be Pluto. I just love him so much.
Favorite movie.
I will say that my favorite all-time Disney movie is Aladdin.
Yes.
So far,
me too.
2 for 2 with Jess there, yeah. What is your favorite Disney memory?
I have so many. I think it's a tie between, like I was telling you guys earlier about my first trip, because that just experiencing it all for the first time, like, is nothing else in this world. And I remember just spending that whole trip just in awe of that place and the atmosphere. And the Tower of Terror is a great ride, don't get me wrong, but it's not my favorite ride. But it was my first ride at Disney, and that experience of being on a ride like that and being like, what is this technology? It just blew me away. So that's one. And then my other favorite, I think, would be last time I was there, which was 2018, December. We had lunch at the Nine Dragons in Epcot, which I'd never been to before, and it was so good. And then we went to the Candlelight Processional, and John Stamos was the narrator.
Oh my goodness.
And he was so sweet, and he got up there and I think his son had just been born that year, because his son is pretty close to Gus's age, and he was talking about, the joy of Christmas and the Christmas story and sharing that with his son. And I remember he got emotional on the stage. And you guys, oh my gosh, it was just like one of those moments where I looked around and like the sun was setting and it was beautiful and the weather was gorgeous and I had a belly full of delicious Disney food. And I was just like, this is the best moment. So that's probably my other favorite memory. So hanging out with Uncle Jesse.
That he loves Disney. Him and his wife are huge Disney people. So it's kind of cool to have that connection growing up with Full House and then him transitioning into loving Disney. I feel like we mirrored that same pattern.
Yeah.
So what a cool connection. All right. So for our last segment, we like to ask all of our guests on ReDIScover the same 4 final rapid fire questions. So we're going to transition right into those.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
First question, what does living authentically mean to you?
I love how much you guys talk about this, and your podcast already has taught me so much about living authentically. I think that for me, that means focusing on my health, and I mean my mental health and my physical health, and learning to eliminate the things in my life that are not serving me. And that includes relationships. I've learned that, you don't have to dislike someone to know that they're not meant to be in your life. And that knowledge has really helped kind of liberate me with some relationships that weren't exactly healthy. And learning how to say no has helped me be more authentically me, and just embracing every aspect of myself, no longer making justifications or excuses for who I am, and just saying, this is who I am, and That is okay.
Love
Yes,
it.
we love all of that. I mean, you're talking to someone who called herself frump for like years.
Well, and like you said in that previous episode about the term frump, you took that, from something where people kind of said it like jokingly, kind of picking at you, to a term of empowerment. Like, yeah, I'm a frump. I own it. I love it. Like, this is who I am. And I'm not apologizing for being me, which I think is so great.
If you could travel to any one place in the world right now, where would it be and why?
Oh, yes. Already. It would definitely be Disney World. Is traveling back in time an option? Because I would love to go back to before this pandemic. But I think that just that magic, we all need that right now. But also, if I had to choose another place, I think I would say I'm actually a really big history buff. And I love reading like historical fiction and things like that. And I would love to go to Scotland. I've always had this fascination with Scotland. I've never been outside of the United States, apart from Canada. That's something I really want to do in the future, is kind of really expand my horizons. Can I just do that? Can I go to Disney World and then I'll just hop on a plane and go to Scotland? That's my plan.
Yeah, it is the Orlando International Airport after all. All right. What is one thing you would be doing every day if your life were free of limitations?
Oh my goodness. If I were free of any limitation, I'm trying to think of what my limitations are so much within myself, like my anxieties and my own struggles that I deal with internally. So if I were free of those things, I think what I would do every day is just live my life truly carefree, because I don't think that being carefree makes you irresponsible. I don't think that that means, you're ignoring the realities of life. I just mean, living in a way where I'm able to just focus on all of the blessings and not let the hardships bring me down, because I'm still really struggling with that. So if I were free of those personal limitations, I think that's what I would do, which takes me back to maybe that would help me live even more authentically.
Yeah, those are really one and the same. What is one childlike quality that you think would be beneficial if adults utilized it in their daily lives?
Children are so quick to love and quick to forgive. And I think that that is something this country needs so much right now. If you're on the playground and you're a little kid and your friend pushes you down, you're mad for like 5 seconds. And then you're over it and you guys are buddies again and you can continue to have fun. I get on social media and I want to stay connected with my friends and family, but it's so hard to see how divided our country is. And I think that I would love, if people could be more like children and be more accepting and be more loving and worry less about our differences and more about, what brings us together. I see my son interacting with other children and there's no hostility, there's no jealousy, there's no bitterness. There's just curiosity and openness. And I wish that we could be that way as adults, myself included. It's not like I don't have my moments, where I judge or where I, am too harsh with people. But I think that really weighs us all down and weighs down our relationships, and children are just so free of that. I think we could all use that a little bit.
That's why I love kids so much.
Mhm.
I think a lot of people view acting that way as an adult as being like naive, or, when people always say like, oh, you live in a bubble or get your head out of the clouds. It's not that. It's just this like higher understanding that kids really get, that we kind of lose as we get older, that every single human makes mistakes. Every single human does wrong things. But if we also make mistakes and do wrong things, then how are we so quick to discount those people and judge them and be harsh toward them? But I like that you said, he engages with such a curiosity. I think if we went in with curiosity first, there would be a lot more grace.
Yes, absolutely. And then, just living for the moment. I think children, so much more so than adults, understand the essence of life, which is you're only here for so long. And so enjoy it. Like, children don't sit around worrying about, what tomorrow will bring. And I know in a lot of ways that's because they don't have the responsibilities that we do, but we worry so excessively. And I say a collective we because I am absolutely a part of that. Kids they have that innocence within them that gives them the ability just to love and live. And I wish we could all be that way.
They are carefree, but not in a careless way. All right. So that about wraps up our episode today with the wonderful and beautiful Joni. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you, Joni. This has been truly magical. I feel like just so much spirit emanates from you, and everyone, whether you're a Disney person or not, whether you were on DISboards or not, you're going to get something out of this. This is truly the uplifting conversation we need this time of year, especially.
It was such a wholesome conversation for Disney fans, for moms, for just empowered women in general.
Yeah.
I love it. Wow.
Happy early birthday to Sweet Gus, and we hope that we can see you in Disney sometime really soon.
Thank you guys so much. This has been so much fun for me. I've loved talking to you, and thank you for doing what you're doing. You are empowering women more than I think you even realize. Your voices are so important for people to hear now and always. Thank you for sharing your light with us, because it's amazing and it's really, really powerful. So this has been a real blessing for me. So I'm so grateful for this opportunity.
Thank you, Joni.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much for listening to this really special episode featuring our dear friend Joni. Kristen and I both learned so much, and we absolutely adored having her on the show. We hope it sets a great tone for the rest of your week, and we will see you next Tuesday.
Bye.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of ReDIScover.
Please subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening. Your reviews are what keep us going, and we'd love to hear from you.
Join us every Tuesday for a new conversation, and let us know what you think we should talk about next.
Follow us on Instagram at positively.kristen and at jessicafay508. And check out Jess's blog at theroadjesstraveled with 1l.com.
Until next time,
Stay frumpy!